1991, Iraq was given 15 days to fully disclose all weapons of mass destruction.
It was unfinished business from the first Gulf War.
And we got it right. Well, I'm horrified that I was part of it.
Ils ont détruit l'Irak.
It went very quickly, and it was anticipated that the campaign militarily would go very quickly. And the big question was, well, what comes after?
I remember calling my boss, the three-star general, the Corps commander, and I said, I have good news and bad news. And he said, what's the good news? And I said, the good news is that we control Najaf. He said, terrific, congratulations. What's the bad news? I said, we control Najaf. What do you want us to do with it? Where are these guys that told us in Kuwait that you just get us to Baghdad and we'll take it from there? He said, well, give them a call. I did. And they said they were still getting organized. So that meant there were no Iraqi authorities there to help us with that.
Everyone thought George Bush was a hero. Then about a week after that, the looting started. And the citizens of Iraq realized, there's no authority. None. And that's when our troubles really began.
L'administration Bush ne connaît pas le doute. Guidée par une détermination quasi mystique à chasser Saddam Hussein du pouvoir. Et elle n'a pas encore pardonné à ceux qui se sont mis sur son chemin.
La France a été l'objet d'une campagne massive à travers tous les médias américains. Le Pentagone faisait de la désinformation. C'est-à-dire qu'il disait la France livre des armes à Saddam Hussein pour abattre nos avions. La France fait tout pour que notre opération ne marche pas.
Les Américains nous interdisaient d'utiliser la voie rapide de la route qui conduisait ou nous ramenait de l'aéroport, ce qui nous obligeait à prendre la voie lente, alors qu'il y avait une dizaine d'attentats par jour en moyenne. Les Américains, eux, d'ailleurs, ne prenaient même pas cette autoroute, ils se déplaçaient en hélicoptère. Donc ils exposaient notre vie quasiment volontairement.
Mais une fois sur place, les Américains se retrouvent avec un pays sur les bras à gérer. Le chef de la diplomatie, Colin Powell, et la conseillère à la sécurité nationale, Condoleezza Rice, poussent la Maison-Blanche à assumer ses responsabilités.
Howell and Condi are the ones who convinced the president that he has occupying power responsibilities under the Geneva Accords and under international law writ large, and that he's got to stay. And then Jerry Bremer gets picked, and Jerry Bremer goes in to be the proconsul, and so forth and so on.
L'ancien diplomate Paul Bremer, surnommé Jerry, est nommé à la tête de l'autorité provisoire. Il devient de facto le chef de l'État irakien et à carte blanche du président Bush, notamment pour mener à bien la débasification. Le Baas était le parti unique sous la dictature de Saddam Hussein, un passage obligé pour tout poste à responsabilité dans le gouvernement comme dans l'armée.
I was present at a meeting before the invasion of Iraq with President Bush. Two decisions were made by the president. First was we would debathify only to a certain level. The second decision was one that we actually, from military airplane, dropped leaflets onto the soldiers, and it said, soldiers of the Iraqi army, go home. We will call you back. One of the first things Bremer did when he was in Iraq was in some fashion turn around those two decisions and reversed them.
He disbands the entire military. And I remember one of the colonels saying to me, do you know what that meant? That meant that something like 50,000 Republican Guard soldiers went home with their weapons and said, I'm now opposing the government. Automatically, just like that. So Jerry did that.
I was presented with the order before I left Washington. I was given it by the Defense Department and told that it had been coordinated entirely within the U.S. government.
Bremer dément toute responsabilité, mais dit avoir fait une erreur, avoir confié une partie de cette tâche aux Irakiens eux-mêmes.
أنا كنت أحد الذين أيضا شركاء في هذه اللجنة في هيئة إشاعة البعث. البرنامج تأتي أهميته من أن العراق محكوم إلى هذا الحزب، وهذا الحزب حزب دكتاتوري وحزب إرهابي، وليس من الصحيح والمعقول أن يبقى أعضاء هذا الحزب طليقين كما حصل في ألمانيا بالنسبة للحزب النازي. لذلك كان من الطبيعي جدا ومن الضروري أن تحصل عملية عزل وإبعاد هؤلاء عن إدارة الدولة الجديدة.
People make false statements about it. They say that this order collapsed the Iraqi government. This is nonsense. The order was designed to affect only the top 2% of the party.
In fact, one of the results was that the school teachers were all thrown out. School teachers, had to join the Ba'ath Party in order to be teachers. They were no threat by and large, but kids weren't being taught in school because the teachers had been de-Ba'athified. So it really was a disaster.
لا شك في أن بعض الأساتذة بعض الذين حصلوا على درجة أستاذية أو دكتوراه في الجامعات كانوا بعثيين، بل بعضهم كانت رسالته الدكتوراه أو الماجستير عن خطابات صدام حسين. هل يستحق هذا الأستاذ أن يكون أستاذا في جامعة وهو يكتب رسالة دكتوراه في خطابات صدام حسين؟
Robert Grenier se rend toutes les semaines à la Maison-Blanche. Ce responsable de la CIA informe le président Bush de l'évolution de la situation en Irak. Un matin, Grenier a la surprise de découvrir que Paul Bremer se joint à la réunion.
There's Paul Bremer sitting there. So which made it a little bit more uncomfortable because basically we were saying that the policies that are being pursued by Mr. Bremer are a disaster and this is what they're leading to. But we delivered that briefing to the president. And the president looked at Bremer, and I remember as clear as though it were yesterday. He said, "What do you say, Bremer?" And Mr. Bremer said, "I just don't see any way forward other than along the lines that we're pursuing right now." And that was the end of the meeting, and things went on from there.
And that really was the source of the original large numbers of individuals who would become insurgents or extremists. Noting that you had some others, of course, who were truly who became true al-Qaeda affiliates, al-Qaeda in Iraq, led initially, of course, by Zarqawi until his death in 2006. But that was these two decisions were truly catastrophic and represented setbacks from which we could never fully recover.
I respect the American generals who think that this was a mistake. But they didn't have the responsibility that I had, which was to get it right. And we got it right.
Paul Bremer quitte l'Irak après une année passée sur place. Le 22 février 2006, un nouveau cycle de violence frappe le pays.
Le dynamitage de la mosquée de Samarra, qui était un lieu historique, déclenche quelque chose qui ressemble vraiment à une guerre civile, avec un très grand nombre de morts. Hein. On était à Bagdad à une moyenne de 3000 morts par mois.
The different states in the region, so they encouraged the extremists to come from all the different countries to enter Iraq. They supplied them with hundreds or thousands of car bombs, and the extremists succeeded to instigate a sectarian tension among the Iraqis.
Pour contrer cette vague de violence qui submerge le pays, George Bush fait appel au général Petraeus et il ordonne l'envoi de 30 000 soldats supplémentaires début 2007. C'est ce que les Américains appellent le surge.
What made the surge successful was not the surge of forces. It was the surge of ideas. It was the way we changed our strategy and our tactics on the ground. And all of that was 180 degrees different from what we had been doing prior to the surge. It's very clear to us that we needed to go back into the neighborhoods, that we had to secure the people, and we could only do that by living with the people.
La guerre en Irak, c'est aussi la révélation de pratiques inhumaines menées par l'armée américaine. À 20 km à l'ouest de Bagdad, la prison d'Abu Ghraib était utilisée comme centre de torture du temps de Saddam. Les Américains en ont pris le contrôle, mais n'en ont pas changé la nature. Au printemps 2004, des photos et rapports choquent le monde. Ils prouvent que des soldats ont torturé et abusé sexuellement des détenus irakiens.
Abu Ghraib was a catastrophic mistake. It is what we term a non-biodegradable mistake. It's never going away. Maybe there will be a half-life at some point, but those images, those pictures, those photos are still online, very easily found, and that will continue to be a motivator for those who want to criticize the United States, to generate support for extremist activities. And it did galvanize Sunni Arabs in particular, again, to fight the United States in the years after that was discovered.
Never before in the history of America has the President of the United States authorized human beings to be tortured. And that's what George W. Bush did, under the heavy influence of Vice President Dick Cheney and his counsel, David Addington. We violated domestic law, we violated international law for sure, when we tortured people. No accountability has been achieved. They're war criminals. If it means I go to jail as a war criminal, as long as they go to jail as war criminals, I'll be happy.
Au fil des mois, Le Monde et notamment Colin Powell découvrent que les arguments pour entrer en guerre présentés par la Maison-Blanche et le directeur de la CIA, George Tenet, étaient tous fallacieux.
I remember in August, he walked through the door to our offices and he said, "Have you heard the latest?" George has still got those pictures up on his website. I said, "Pictures? Pictures?" He said, "Yeah, pictures of the mobile biological labs. They're still there." And I said, "Well, obviously, George still believes that they were mobile biological laboratories." And Powell said, "Well, I guess that's the only leg of my presentation that's standing because all the others had been taken down over the course of the summer." A week later, he comes back in and he says, "George just called me. The last leg has collapsed. There were no biological labs." And I'm sitting there thinking, well, you know, you and I are both just naive as hell. That's the real problem. We're naive as hell.
Si la politique mise en place par les États-Unis sème le chaos, les responsables irakiens que les Américains ont emmenés dans leur bagage en 2003 n'aident pas à apaiser les tensions.
Prime Minister Maliki pursued terrible sectarian activities that once again alienated the Sunni Arabs, once again made them feel dispossessed, and once again gave them an incentive in the failure of the new Iraq rather than its success. And of course, it was that which allowed al-Qaeda in Iraq, now the Islamic State, to reconstitute itself, to drift into Syria, to gain additional combat power, and then come back into Iraq and cause such significant problems, establishing a caliphate, which had Mosul as its headquarters in the north, and of course Raqqa as its headquarters in Syria.
والله أنا ما أعرف شنو الخطأ في نظره، ربما هو يراه خطأ وأنا أراه صحيح، بس هو شنو الخطأ اللي تعرض إلا وأنه ارتكبناه الخطأ اللي موجود، هو ما كان معنا في كل مرحلة وجوده إلا كان منسجما يعني، وكنا نعمل معا واستطعنا أن نحقق انتصارات معا على داعش وعلى الإرهاب وإعادة توحيد العراق.
La situation naviguera entre le pire et le moins pire au fil des ans, avec tout de même quelques progrès notables, comme la tenue d'élections. Mais une question reste sans réponse, celle du péché originel des plus néoconservateurs de l'administration Bush.
I think maybe the biggest question of them all. Why did they decide to go into Iraq? And I think that is still the big unknown. Why? Saddam could hardly do anything. He wasn't a threat to anybody at the time. So I don't know anybody who can give you a convincing answer to that question.
Some of them still believe there are weapons. Pardon me, that's fucking insane. Pardon me.